The big distinction is that they're fielding calls. The 49ers are fielding calls like a shortstop. They are not making calls. God, they're not. Don't you make sure you get that right. What's the difference?
It's a big difference. I mean, one is you're dialing numbers, and the other one is you're hitting the answer button. That's the biggest difference. It's funny that this came out because it's clearly coming from the 49ers. Or I guess it could be coming from Trey Lance's team if he wants to get traded. But it's coming from most likely inside the building. And so if that is the case, it doesn't matter if you're fielding calls or if you're making the calls. The point is that you are willing to trade said player. You've talked about it all offseason. Over the last week, there's this push from all media members. It seems like, big conglomerate media members that are talking about, oh, Sam Darnold might be the starter week 1. Well, then you've got all these other things that have led up to this point. And then today you hear, oh, they're fielding calls, but they're not making calls. They're just listening to the calls. It doesn't matter. If you're offered something, you're going to take it. If you like the offer that's coming back, and if you don't, you're probably going to say, hey, this is what it will take to get this player. Doesn't matter if you made the call or not. There is no distinction.
But the perception is very important because
100%.
If the report is the Niners are making calling teams about Trey Lance, then one could infer they're not getting calls about Trey Lance. So therefore, they have to make the calls, which implies that there's no market for him, which implies that they might trade him for a 7th-round pick, if not cut him. That's bad. So if you tell people you're making calls, you hurt his trade value, which they're very good at doing. So they're trying to not do that for a change, and they're saying they're fielding calls, which makes it seem like, oh my God, is it 8 teams? Is it 12? Is it 17 teams? And is anyone out offering a 1st-round pick? I mean, they're trying to create like fear of missing out, all that stuff. Like everything you try to do with your thumbnails and your headlines on YouTube to get them to click, like that's what they're doing with Trey Lance right now. Absolutely. That's what they're doing. And, I guess it's better than not trying, but it's fairly obvious.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, they've hit the trigger here for FOMO, for sure. You've hit the FOMO trigger for all these other teams. And maybe they're going to click. Maybe they're going to click and they're going to want to watch the video and they're going to inquire about Trey Lance. I don't know, but it is. It's
what do you want? 2nd round big? Click. Sorry. All right. Sorry.
Exactly. So there's a price. There's obviously a price. We don't know what that price is, but they have a price in mind and they are open for business at the very least. And so this thing is going to get interesting over the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, because the way I read this is whether they're fielding calls or making calls, I don't know. That's all spin. All I know is that the Niners, I feel more confident that this came from the Niners. So what the Niners want you to know is that call us, please. Call us about Trey. Hey, it's like when when we were kids, you'd watch TV late at night and you'd like find those like channels where they'd be trying to sell you crap. Just awful stuff. But they're like, it's 80% off for the next 5 minutes if you call right now. I think the Niners are trying to pull that one like, hey, you might get a real good deal if you call immediately. Because 8 teams are calling. I mean, you hear the phones? The phones are off the hook. They're doing that stuff, man. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. And it's not because I don't like Trey Lance. It's just that I feel like the value that got him to pick 3 overall initially was all based on speculation. Like he played 1 year and then there was a pandemic and you're thinking like, I project based on XYZ. 2 years later, like you go back and you're like, man, his resume's thin. And his contract's already halfway up. Like, it's not like if you were in the draft right now, you could say, man, he still would be a 1st-round pick, but he's not. He's on this contract. He's kind of expensive. He hasn't played. There's a lot of things going against him. But 17 teams calling the Niners. I mean, it's
a fire sale over here, man.
It's a fire sale over here.
It is interesting though, because the spin that was put on it has definitely fooled a lot of people. A lot of people are like, hey, it's not that big of a deal. Of course they're going to field calls when they put out there that he's competing with Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy's their guy. What do you expect was going to happen? This isn't that big of a deal. It doesn't mean they want to trade him. Okay. And maybe they don't want to trade him right now. And
then why is this a report? How did this get out there? Because I just don't look at Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter as breaking news that teams don't want broken.
Right.
You think Ian Rappaport got like a scoop from someone and just went with it and didn't run this by the Niners? I think, I'm just guessing. It seems like that's how the business works today, that everyone understands, everyone signs off on every report that gets broken. And this probably serves the Niners somehow. They wanted this out. I'm guessing. Niners, don't sue me. But it just seems like it serves you. Who else would break this news? The Lions?
Yeah.
The Bears?
And when
the Tigers?
When you compare it with what else came out earlier in the day from, a 49er, it's a 49er like news breaking account, but they're usually pretty accurate here. Said something along the lines of, hey, 49ers have had discussions of trying to get up into the second round or early third round. And then about an hour later, this comes out and you're like, oh, well, I mean, how were you planning on getting up that high in the draft? Was it going to be by trading these crazy great third round picks? Probably not. You probably
maybe they'll trade Ty Davis Price.
Yeah.
They'll trade Ty Davis Price for a second round pick.
Yeah, there you go.
Chris Tellerico says Lance and a third for Cousins and part of his cap hit this season. Then Kyle's seat is on fire by ownership to win a Super Bowl this season. Boy, that would be unpopular.
Yeah, I would say it is kind of crazy how much hate Kirk Cousins gets. I think he's fine. I wouldn't pay him what he's getting paid by any means. He's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's been a consistent top 12 quarterback in the league. I don't think that's enough to necessarily win a Super Bowl, but he's better than what people think. But yeah, that wouldn't be popular at all.
The better than Jimmy Garoppolo line has gotten people like way too much hype. Like that is nothing to be. Who cares? Yeah, is Kirk Cousins decent? Yeah. Is he ever going to win a Super Bowl? Jesse?
No,
he's
not.
No,
and that's
waste time.
But also,
let him go to the Arizona Cardinals.
Isn't that really the argument that every 49er fan that thinks Brock Purdy is the next great thing? Isn't that their same argument? He's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. That's the argument.
Look, I like Brock Purdy. Great story, good kid, bright future. If I had to guess, is Brock Purdy going to win a Super Bowl? I would guess no. Sorry, but I'm usually wrong about most things.